Morning, all of you. Welcome back to the course on cryptography and system security. So, during our previous session, we discussed about some of the transposition techniques. We revised the rail fence technique as well as columnar transposition technique. And then we discussed about the rotor machine concept. That was the last technique, which is based on a transposition technique. When we talk about the transposition, it is a technique through which the plain text position are rearranged so that that will looks like a complete ciphertext. Based on that, the rotor machine was one of the technique through which where you have the rotors, three rotors. One rotor will be rotating fast, and the second rotator will be rotating at the medium speed, and the last one which will be rotating very slow. So depends upon it is like very similar to the function how our odometer works, right? All the rotors are interconnected, depends upon the speed, right? One input, and then the output of the first rotor will be passed to the input of the second rotor. By the way, the whatever the character we are setting at the first rotor, so after the inputs are processing at the third rotor, we will get the ciphertext, right? The reverse process which are going to be applied when we perform the decryption process using the rotor machines, right? Apart from that, we discussed about one of the important technique which comes under the cryptography and other security technique, which is called as steganography. When we talk about the steganography, is a technique, right? Our actual information which are going to be hidden behind the images are some other invisible formats. For that, we discussed about few techniques. I explained with how the kings were implemented or using this steganography technique, right? Again, we discussed about no, there are different techniques through the steganography can be attained. The first one is that no character highlighting, a specific character or letter or the word which can be highlighted, so that if we are collecting those highlighted words or letters, so that will give us a separate meaning or separate information. By the way, this steganography can be achieved. And the second one we discussed was invisible link or maybe the special link, right? And so the steganography can be achieved by using a special inks. Through that, if you are applying specific other alternative techniques, say for example, if you are applying some other paints or some, if you are heating little heat, right? Through that we can get the exact information. So these are called some of the invisible links, right? And then typewriter ripper correction as well as pin punctures, right? I explained with the example of our passport. In our passport, we can see that the dotted holes, if you are keeping that, if you are keeping that passport in front of the light, through the dotted holes we can get the passport numbers. Very similarly, there are different techniques through which the steganography concept were achieved, right? So with this, in the first half of the first unit, we covered about the security goals. Under that, we discussed about CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and then availability. Then we discussed about different types of securities, right? No, the general category, I could say that the physical security, system security, data or information security, and the network security. Then we discussed about security services, or I could say that the security architectures, ITU-X 800 security architecture. Under that, we discussed about security attacks. Under that security attack, we discussed about passive attacks and then active attacks. And then we discussed about security mechanisms, and then we discussed about security services, right? In the later part, we discussed about the basic key elements, the terminologies which are refers to the or which are related to the cryptography. We discussed about what is cryptography, cryptanalysis, cryptology, right? And then we discussed about what is encryption, decryption key, right? And then later part we discussed about classical encryption technique. Under that, we discussed about substitution as well as transposition technique. When we discussed about the substitution technique, we discussed about CC cipher encryption technique, and the second one was the generalized or modern CC cipher encryption technique. The third one which we discussed was a fine cipher, and then followed by we discussed about monoalphabetic cipher, polyalphabetic cipher, and then Playfair cipher, and then later we discussed about the Vernam cipher of one-time padding. Then under the transposition technique, we discussed about the rail fence technique, row column transposition technique, and then we discussed about the rotor machine, and then we discussed about steganography. Is there any doubt with the topic which I covered so far in the first half of the first unit? You can quickly write in the chat box or you can unmute. and you can raise your queries. Okay, I'm getting positive reply from you guys. Okay, happy to hear. And with this, I can proceed with the second half of the first unit, which is completely based on the numerical. So in this lecture, I am going to I am going to explain about the mathematics which are behind the cryptography techniques, introduction to the number theory part. I hope the screen is visible for you. Can you all see the presentation screen? I am not concentrating on the chat box. Okay. Okay, thank you for your responses. In this subtopic, so I'm going to cover some of the fundamentals which are related to the uh, introduction to the number theory part. So all these numericals which are going to comes under the topic introduction to the number theory. So under this topic, so we are going to study about some of the formulas or theory or maybe the concept which will be used for cryptography techniques, right? First, I'm going to explain about the prime numbers, right? You all might be knowing about the prime numbers, right? Prime number is a positive integer which is greater than 1 and which is divisible by 1 and itself, right? So I don't want to much waste time for this, right? You all might be knowing about this is the basic, right? 2, 3, 5, 7. That means that any number, if you say it's a prime number, right? Its factor should be, say for example, if I'm taking 11 is a prime number. The factors for the 11 is 1 as well as by its own. So if numbers having the factors of 1 and by its own, those numbers are called prime numbers, right? And the second, I could say that relatively prime numbers are, I could say that these are the co-primes. Relatively prime numbers are co-prime numbers. So that means that if I'm going to consider the two numbers are relatively prime to one another when they have a no common factor except one. Say for example, if I say that 3 and 5 are the co-primes, are relatively prime numbers, right? What are the factors for this 3, which is 1 comma 3, and for 5 again the factors for 5 is 1 comma 5. And if these two numbers have the common factor only 1, there are no other common factor other than 1, then these two numbers can be called as a co-prime or relatively prime numbers. Is it clear? The first is a prime number and the second one is relatively prime numbers. When we talk about prime numbers, any number which has the factor of 1 as well as by its own. So those numbers are called prime numbers. When you talk about the relatively prime numbers are co-prime numbers, right? Out of these two numbers, right, there should not be any common factors other than 1. The next concept which we are going to discuss is that greatest common divisors. When we talk about the greatest common divisor, right? So when we talk about these, the co-primes are the relatively prime numbers. What is the greatest common factor? So that is 1. Always remember that when you are having the co-primes are relatively prime numbers, the GCD between those two relatively prime numbers should be 1. GCD of 3 comma 5, which is 1, because these 3 and 5 are the co-prime numbers, are relatively prime numbers, right? When you talk about GCD is a greatest common divisors. That means that if I'm taking two examples, two numbers A and B, out of that, what is the common divisor, right, between these two numbers? So that is going to be called as the greatest common divisors. GCD of two integer is the largest integers that can divide both integers, right? So for example, I could explain with this, right? So say for example, if it was 3 comma 5 again, which is 1 because these two are the co-primes. Again, when we talk about 12 comma 60, what are the factors for 12? Which is 1, 3, 4, 6, and then 12. And then when you talk about 60, so the factors for 60 is 1, and then 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 10, then 12, right? What are the numbers can divide? 15. 4 15s are 16, right? Okay, and followed by, so 20, 3 20s are 60, and then 2 30s are 60, and followed by 60. Okay, how you could see that, say here, this is if you multiply these two values, right, you will get it 1 multiplied by 60, 62 multiplied by 30, which is 60, 3 multiplied by 20, 60, and then 4 multiplied by 15, you will get 60, 5 multiplied by 12, 60, and then 6 multiplied by 10, you will get 60. So you just identify the common factors for the 12 and 60, which is, so 12 here and 12 here. So the GCD between the 12 and 60 is equal to 12. Are you clear with this? If you have any queries? Is there any query regarding the GCD, how to find the greatest common divisor in general terms? Okay, if there are no more further queries, then I'll move to the next one. Give me a second. See, the GCD between these two values, right? So that can be identified using the Euclidean algorithms, right? Or Euclidean technique, right? So here, when we talk about the normal dividend methods, right? So suppose if I wanted to divide this 15 upon 5, right? You will get 2 is the quotient and then 3 is the remainder. So this 13 can be written in terms of 2 multiplied by 5 and plus 3. Out of that, right? 2 is the quotient and 3 is the remainder. Very similarly, right? When we talk about the GCD of the two integers can be found by repeated application of the division algorithm. So this is known as the Euclidean algorithm, right? So here we can multiply some value with the factors and followed by the modulus operation, right? So we can find out the GCD, right? So if 81 can be represented 1 multiplied by 57, so 81 and 57. Say for example, now to find the GCD between this 81 and 57 using the Euclidean algorithm, right? 1 into 57. So this can be multiplied by any numbers x multiplied by 57 plus the remainder value. And then we are going to take this remainder, right? And then so 57 equal to 2 into 54 plus 9. Again, so 24 equal to, so 2 into 9 plus 6, right? And then 9 is equal to 1 into 6 plus 3, right? If you continue like this, right? So somewhere you will get 0, right? Whenever we reaches 0 is the modulus, then so that number will be the, right? So that the 6 will be the greatest common devices. Sorry, the 3 will be the greatest common devices between this 81 and then 57. Is it clear? So I could explain this with the numerical example we'll solve, right? We will get more clarification on this. For that, I'll open another document. Can you all see the new document which I've shared? So this is the problem, right? So you may get a problem for your examinations. Find GCD between this 36, 10. Now, what we need to do is that, right? We can write in such a way that, right? GCD of y, x mod y, which is 10. So first we'll take this this y value. Suppose if this is x and this is y, right? Y will take first, right? And followed by 36 mod 10. So GCD of 10 will keep this remainder part and then 36 mod 10. So what value will get, which is, so this 10 will come as it is. 36 mod 10, what value will get? 10. Now we need to find out GCD of 10, 6. In that cases, we'll take the y first. 6, 10 mod 6, which will give 6, 4. Right? If you find GCD of 6, 4, right? Again, so this can be written as 4, 6 mod 4, which is 4, 2. Right? If you find the GCD of 4, 2, so here what you will get? So 2, 4 mod 2. So you will get 2, 0. By the way, so 2 will be the greatest common devices between this 36, 10. I hope this is clear. If any queries, you can write in the chat box. Is there any queries? Okay. Now, I hope I shared the new screen, which is Notepad, right? Now, try to find out this, the GCD of 40 and 20 using Euclid algorithm. So this is what you are supposed to do now. Do the calculation, tell me the answer. I hope you are all working parallelly. Twenty. There's a problem, which is GCD of GCD of 40 comma 20 is equal to 10, and then 36 comma 10 I have done, right? So this we worked, second we worked, right? GCD of 48 comma 30 and 105 comma 80. 48 comma 30, 48 comma 30, and GCD of 105 comma 80. Solve these two and tell me the answers. How this could be done? I'll solve this part, right? GCD of 48 comma 30. So this can be using the Eclipse algorithm, where we will take this. Suppose if this is x and y first, 30 comma, and then 48 mod 30. So which will give 30 comma 18. 6. What about others? I hope all are working. I may instruct you at any time to share the screen. If you are not giving the proper reply, this is not the place to sleep. Your complete attention is required. This is mathematical part. Everyone who are present in the meeting is supposed to send the answer. If required, I may instruct you to turn on the camera, share the screen. Which is equal to, so 30 comma 18, and when we find out the GCD for 18 comma 30, so this can be done 18 comma mod 30, sorry, 30 mod 18. So which will give 18 and mod 18, which is 12. So if I apply this again, GCD of 18 comma 12. So this could be 12 mod, sorry, 18 mod 12. So which means that 12 comma 6. So if we continue this, 6 comma 12 mod 6. So which will give 6 comma 0. So this process has to be repeated till I receive the remainder part equal to 0, so that it identified that GCD of 48 comma 30, which is 6. Now what is the GCD between this 105 and 80? GCD between this 105 and 80. So first 80 and 105 mod 80. So here I'll get 80. So here I'll get 25. Correct? So if I consider this, GCD is equal to 25, 80 mod. So 25, I'll get 75 remainder 5, which is 25 comma 5 I'll get. If I take this mod, 5 will come here. So 5 comma 25 mod 5, which will give 5 comma 0. So GCD of 105 comma 80 will give is 5. I hope this is clear. Very similarly, what I could do is that I could share the one more problem, which is based on this 20 comma 16 and 50 comma 60. 20 comma 16 and 50 comma 16. I'll give a 2 minutes time. Just tell me the answers. Using the Euclidean algorithm, calculate the GCD of 20 comma 16 and 50 comma 60. Okay, so for the first one GCD is 4, and for the second one, okay, good. So based on this, you may get any problem for the examination. I hope this is clear. I'm getting the quiet responses from you. So from the replies, I understood that. So you are clear with the concepts, right? Without further delay, so I can move to the next topic. I hope now we can clearly see the screen. Right. Next, I'm going to explain about the another technique, which is Chinese remainder theorem. Right. So there are certain numbers through which whenever you are repeatedly dividing any number, right? This theorem, right? There are certain numbers repeatedly divided by 3 and the remainder is 2, and repeatedly divided by 5 and remainder is 3, and repeatedly divided by 7 and the remainder is 2, right? So now, so these numbers, right, whatever the remainder which you are giving, if you are repeatedly dividing some operation with the numbers, and we'll be getting a standard numbers, right? Whether it is the remainder is going to be the same, right? 3 or 2 or maybe 5, right? It is completely depends, right? So to prove this, or in order to use this concept in the modular arithmetic as well as the cryptography technique, right? This the Chinese remainder theorem, which is proves that if you are continuously dividing any number, right, and we will be getting that remainder 2 as well as 5 as well as 3, depends upon the number which you are using, right? For that, right? So first, I just wanted to mention about that, right? The range, whatever the integer, right? That is possible to reconstruct the integer in a certain range from the residue modulo, a set of pair which are relatively prime modulo. So, right, when we talk about the relatively prime numbers, the two prime numbers, right, which are having the common factor 1, there should not be any other common factors, right? So, for example, the first equation I'm considering x equal to a1 mod m1, right? So here when we talk about this modulo is modulus operations, which is we are going to get the remainder after certain operations. Very similarly, if you have that second
Sir,
equation, yes.
screen is not visible. Notepad screen is visible.
Oh, sorry, right. I didn't share the screen. From what time the screen is not visible from this point?
Since the beginning, sir.
Okay, okay, sorry. I didn't. Better I can share the complete screen instead every time. Okay, I was trying to explain about this only, the Chinese remainder theorem. Thank you for giving the proper notice in the beginning. Otherwise, I should have repeated completely, right? So when we are dividing any numbers, right? If the number is divided by 3, and you will get the remainder 2, and then if repeatedly dividing any number by 5, and then you will get the remainder is 3. So this the sequence of operations, if you are dividing a number by x and you will get a y, so this can be proved using the Chinese remainder theorem, right? For that, so initially we'll try to understand the basic the derivations, right? If we consider the equation x equal to a1 mod m1, so I was trying to explain about the relatively prime in the beginning of the structures and then modulo operations, and then the second equation x equal to a2 mod m2, and then it will continues xn equal to a1 mod mn, right? When you talk about the congruence, right, if we say that if the two integers a and b are said to be congruent modulo n, right, a mod n is equal to b mod n, right? So that means that congruence means where this can be represented using 3 lines, right, which is very similar to the equal symbol, right? So that means that, so the left as well as right part which are going to be same, right? So here we'll try to prove in the later part also, right? By explaining with the numerical example. For time being, I'll explain with the equations or the derivation which comes under the Chinese remainder theorem, right? So for example, if suppose the first where capital X equal to A1 mod M1 and then capital X again, there are 3-4 equations. Out of that, the capital M, right, which can be is the see here we are talking about the M1 is the modulus for the first equation, M2 is the modulus for the second equation, and M3 is the modulus for the third equations. Out of that, if we wanted to find out the common modulus, right, so this can be calculated using the multiplying all the modulus operation which are given in the equations. M1 multiplied by M2 and then multiplied by M3, and followed by that X can be again A1 is the remainder, I mean the quotient part which is A1, and followed by this M1, whatever the result which you are getting this M1, and followed by this Y1. Y1 is this the remainder part whatever we are getting this mod 1, right? Again A2 M2 Y2 plus A2 M3 Y3. And when we talk about this for corresponding modulus value for the specific number, say for example first equation ka, if you wanted to find out the M value, so M is equal to the common N which we calculated, right? So this multiplied by its this value, and you will get the value. And then y1 can be calculated using this modulo inverse operation with respect to the specific modulus value, right? So this is what some of the theoretical part through which we'll try to understand the Chinese remainder theorem, right? I hope I may assume that this may little confusing, but when we solve the problem, so you will get a clear idea. So for that, I further move to the numerical part, right? So with this, you will try to understand it clearly. After that, also, if you are having any queries, right, I am ready to explain the theoretical part again. So state CRT, CRT stands for Chinese remainder theorem, and find X for the following equations. They are given the equations X equal to 1 mod 2, and then X equal to 1 mod 3, and then X equal to 3 mod 5, and then X equal to 1 mod 7. Out of that, so we are assuming that A1 which is equal to the first values are the A's, right? A1 is equal to 1, and then A2 is equal to 1, and then A3 is equal to 3, and then A4 is equal to 1. And so this is the remainder part. 2, 3, 5, 7 are the M values. So M1 is equal to 2 small m, right? M2 is equal to 3. And then M3 is equal to 5. Now M4 is equal to 7, right? Now, in order to find out this capital M, right, which is the common modulo, where we are going to multiply all these M1, M2, M3, M4, M5. So, which is 2 into 3 into 5 into 7, right? 6, 6 5s are 30, 30 into 7 will get 210. I hope this is clear. Any further queries? No, I shared the complete screen. Sorry, I might have missed your messages on time. I might be reading it a little later. Okay. Okay, now the capital M is equal to multiplication of all the reminders 2, 3, 5, 7, which we gives 210, right? For all set of elements, right? As I mentioned. So M1 equal to capital M upon the modulus value. So which is for the first element, which is M1 equal to capital M1 is equal to capital M upon the modulus value for the equation 1, which is 210 upon what is the first modulus value, which is M1, which is 2. So which is 105. Very similarly, for M2 we'll get 210 upon 3 will get 70, 42 and 30. Is it clear so far? Any queries?
No, sir.
Okay. Then, so in order to find out the inverse modulo operations, right? So we need to find the inverse modulo operations, inverse of M upon M1 mod M1. So that means that 105 mod 2. So what are the value which we calculated? Inverse of capital M1, which is 105, right? 105 mod 2. So this can be done using this 105 upon 2 minus 2. 105 upon 2 minus 2. So here we'll get 105 only. 105 again mod 2. So we'll get the remainder value 1. Once again, I'll just adjust the screen. I hope now it is visible clearly, right? Very similarly, right, when we wanted to find out the modulus value for the second M2 or Y2, which is 70, inverse modulo of 70 equal to 70 power 3 minus 2. Here this 2 will be the common. You may get confused that why they are subtracting it by 2, because that is a Chinese remainder theorem. What are the inverse value which you are going to calculate, right? So this is the M1 value, M1, M2 value which we calculated, 105 upon the modulus remainder value is equal to 2 minus 2. So this is a fixed 1. So there is no doubt about it, right? So this 2 minus 2 will be the common for all the elements, for all the equations, right? So 70, inverse of 70 mod 3, which is equal to 70 power 3 minus 2, which is, again you will get 70, right? 70 mod 3 you will get 1. Again 105 mod 2 you will get 1. Are you clear with this? Right? Now, is the same one which I was explaining? No, right? I just moved further. Okay, so the continuation of the previous one. So this is if the meeting ends quickly, you can rejoin. I'll try to cover this part as quick as possible. Right? If we repeat this process, y3 is equal to inverse of m upon m3, which is inverse of 42 mod 5. So when we talk about 42 mod 5, which is 42 power 5 minus 2, right? So this 2 is the common one, right? So 42 power 3. So if you multiply this value, so 42, you can take it 42 power 2 mod 3 and multiply it by 42 mod 3 and common mod 3. Right? What is the value you are getting? A real working simultaneously 42 power 3 mod 5. Sorry, I just made a mistake here. It is mod 5. What is that 42 power 3? Are you getting the results equal to 3?